Manager, Councilman Michael Nowakowski is on his way. So while he's en route, we're going to show 2 videos to kind of kick off our budget hearing process, and then he'll welcome everybody when he arrives. The first one is a budget overview, and this came out of feedback from the community really wanting to understand the budget process that we go through as a city. So the first video we're going to show is a little bit about the city's budget process. And then the second video is an overview on our budget and what we're looking at this year with the different funding and everything. So we'll show the video, and then when the councilman gets here, we'll kick off the budget hearing. And I failed to do so. I don't think I need the microphone. I failed to do something before we start. I'm going to ask the interpreter to introduce herself in case we have anybody in here that needs interpretation.
Thank you. Me llamo Isabel, y si hay alguna persona que no habla inglés y que necesite escuchar esto en español, díganmelo por favor para que yo pueda interpretar.
Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're going to make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix senior centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie, and most departments like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales, and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods and libraries, It's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the City Council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the City Council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility, and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79. Adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new Sober Living Home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix. And for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department will use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department will use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
Well, first of all, welcome everyone. I'm Councilman Michael Nowakowski. This one? Test, test.
You gotta talk directly into the top of it. It's finicky. It's off. It's actually off. Give it a second. Give it a second.
Test, test. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our budget hearing. And this is a part of what I call Team Phoenix. And it's bringing people together to talk about how we can make our city better. So first of all, I want to introduce some key people of this, what I call the Team Phoenix approach. Is all the directors and commanders and any of the managers of our city staff. So you can please just come forward so people can see you and just quickly just tell us who you are and basically what department you represent. Let's start off with the budget.
Hi.
I'm Bud.
Hi, I'm Budget Director Jeff Barton. I've been with the City of Phoenix for 19 years, and I've been Budget Director for almost 3. Thank you for coming out. Your comments are extremely important to our budget process, and we make changes based on your feedback every single year. So again, thank you.
Good evening.
You gotta talk directly into the top of it.
Good evening. Inger Erickson, the Parks and Recreation Director. I've been the director about 2.5, 3 years.
I'm Rita Hamilton. I'm the city librarian. Been running the Phoenix Public Libraries for 7 years. Who's next?
You're a performer, that's why
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Nicole Ayala. I'm a Deputy Director in the Human Services Department.
And I'm Mary Gabu. I'm also a Deputy Director in the Human Services Department.
Spencer yourself, I'm the Deputy Director in the Neighborhood Services Department. Hi, my name is Mike James. I'm the Bus Rapid Transit Administrator representing public transit tonight.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Mike Kurtenbach, Assistant Chief, Phoenix PD.
Hi, Evan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Duran, District Commander for the Central Districts of the Fire Department. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sean Kendall. I'm a Deputy Director in the Finance Department.
Good evening, I'm Vernon Vasquez. I'm a Deputy Water Services Director, celebrating 30 years with the City of Phoenix.
Good evening, my name is Joe Giudice and I'm representing the Public Works Department.
Hello, my name is Denise Archibald, and I'm here representing the City Clerk Department. Hi, everyone. Deborah Stryker, America's Friendliest Airport.
Did you say quietest?
Yes, now I did.
Hello, I'm Dan Clevenger. I'm the Assistant Director in the Street Transportation Department. 6 months.
We'll take a picture before and after, right?
My name is Jerry Padilla, and I'm the Deputy CIO for ITS, Information Technology Services, assigned to the Phoenix Police Department.
Hi, my name is Laura Diaz. I'm here representing Mayor Stanton.
I'm Romeo Rabusa, representing Arts and Culture.
Thank you. So I think it was.
Cynthia Aguilar.
Oh, Cynthia.
Oh, my director went. So Cynthia Aguilar, Deputy Director, Parks and Parks.
And the reason that I had all the directors and employees introduce themselves, because it's important. We are a team, and this budget is a part of that team effort to tell us what your needs are. You know, we know that there's a lot of wants out there, but what we're looking at is what's the needs of our city to actually be the best ran city in the country. We're the 5th largest, and there's a lot of needs out there, and we need to cover those needs. But there's also a lot of wants, and if there is some money left over on those wants, then we can start looking at the wants. But I think there's a lot of needs that we need to take care of first. And some of those needs we heard last year were the libraries, that we wanted to bring back some of those hours. We heard from the arts community that they wanted some more grant monies out there. We heard that the parks need some more effort. So we heard all that, and we implemented all that needs that you told us that you needed. So that's what today's all about. So we're going to cut it down to about 2 minutes each, just to talk about those needs and concerns that you all have. We're going to be taking down notes, and then we're going to be sharing it with the rest of my colleagues. And then this isn't the final budget. It's just basically the draft. It's the beginning. And then what we do is we bring it back and we throw it to our budget director here and say, hey, can you add these other things that we're hearing out there in the community? And he'll either say, well, yes, but we're going to have to cut this or do this, that. So then we try to work that magic, right? So that's what we're here today, is really to listen to the needs of y'all and to figure out what we can do to make it all happen. So we'll go with the first person.
Okay, so Aaron Ernsberger. Sorry if I mispronounce your name.
I think it's important to use the microphones because of the, we're actually live on channel, we're going to be on channel 11.
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me. My name's Aaron Ernsberger. I've been working for the city of Phoenix now for a little over 20 years, and I work for the fire department. I feel very charmed and blessed to be able to serve this valuable community to my life, my family's, and everyone else's. So thanks for being here. And I would like to also say it's what a wonderful problem to have that our budget department has come up a way that we have a surplus to benefit everyone's, concerns. And that's the thing in this room, is everyone here is a champion to help our community. And that's a pretty refreshing, remarkable concept in itself, don't you? I would agree. So, and I would also like to thank the folks that produced those 2 videos. They're marvelous, well produced, very informative. Thank you. Cut to the chase, the bottom line is that we would like you to be informed. When I say we, the fire department, is we have a passion of serving you and doing a great job day in and day out. That's what we do, just like every department in the city of Phoenix. Our toolbox is dramatically reducing just by the value of our fleet is being diminished. We're short on revenue for fire trucks. We're short on stations. We're approximately 150 personnel light to service. Our call volume is increasing by over 50,000 calls a year. And we just want you to understand that we're doing the best that we can, but in order to do our jobs better and to give you the service that you deserve, those are the things that are out there that we're faced with. And we're humbly just letting you know that there's options out there and there's opportunities to where we could deliver our service model even at a higher level and a faster pace. So anyways, thanks for having me, and I appreciate that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Athea Hart.
Many hats.
Hello. Hi. I'm here as a member of the board of Friends of the Phoenix Public Library. And last year we provided, I'm sorry, I'm trying, but it's $175,000 for hundreds of programming at the library, but we can't do programming when the libraries are closed. And I'm here to say, first of all, I think the city has the most open funding process of any government entity, and I've been working as a volunteer with the library system for 30 years. So thank you for the open system. That was a great show explaining how the process works. And also I want to thank you for making those temporary hours permanent in the supplemental funds. That's a great baby step towards getting us back to where we were 10 years ago when all the libraries were open 7 days a week. And now we have 2 that are open 7 days a week, 7 that are closed 1 day a week, and 8 that are closed 2 days a week. So thank you for what you have done. We last year had 4 million people in the library. We had 300,000 people in programs. The library is so much more than books. Books are important. I'm a lover of books, but as you know, high school help, college help, STEAM programs, arts, all of that is part of the library now. So give us what you can towards getting those hours open so the people of Phoenix can have access. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Donna Reiner.
So as you can tell, the microphones are very finicky, so you have to speak directly.
No, it's good.
No, it's not. Anyway, good evening, Councilman Noah and fellow citizens and staff. Now, somebody said he's been working for the city for umpteen years, and I really commend you for that. I have been volunteering since 2002, and I keep changing hats. But I'm here as the president of the Friends of Phoenix Public Art. And we really want to thank the city for all of its support for the arts and culture throughout the years, and the way, excuse me, that arts help to improve the quality of life in our city. One of the things that I would like to say in particular in your district, Mr. Nowakowski, there are 48 pieces of public art. It's one of the highest concentrations in the city. So what I'm talking about here is that the Friends of the Phoenix Public Art assist the city in providing maintenance funds and conservation funds, not only for the public art, but also for taking care of our fabulous municipal art collection. And for the past 6 years, the Friends of Phoenix Public Art, although it's very new, has supported that endeavor. No cost to the city. It's just the city art that we display. But one of the things that is in this budget, or let's say is not in this budget, is an increase for the public art maintenance. We have gotten increases in the previous 2 years, and we are asking for a simple, mere $16,000 to bring it up to $100,000. And that will give us at least a minimum necessary to take care of the annual public art. The city has invested millions and millions into the public art since the program really started in 1986. It's the least we can do is to give us enough money to help keep it looking nice. It's nationally and internationally recognized. Am I done with twins?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Tripkin?
I'll leave my poster alone. We have 2 minutes. Tell me when the clock starts. Start. Thank you.
Now.
Good. No. Okay, my name's Craig Tripkins, and I work for Central Arizona Shelter Services. And I want to talk about homelessness. You know, if homelessness is bad for the individual who's on the street, homelessness is bad for our neighborhoods, and it's bad for our community. And you know, we know a lot of the answers to homelessness. Let me just set the table really quickly a second. Unsheltered people, the video said 60%. The reality is it's increased by 25% over the last 6 years every year, unsheltered people in the city. And everybody here knows, they've seen it with their eyes, that unsheltered population has gone up. I guess I'll just talk louder. Shelter beds. Come September of this year, shelter beds in the community are going to be down.
How's that? Oh, shelter beds are going to be down. I shouldn't have this subtracted from. Shelter beds are going to be down 27% in this city. We're losing, and we have lost 382 beds in this community. Cass only holds 470 beds. So you can see that's a significant number. Obviously, we want other cities to step up and take part of their fair share of that. The three things we know we need to do to address homelessness, and I'll try to go real quickly here. Number one, outreach. I applaud the city. I think the outreach program is an important first step. I know that everybody's learning how to do that better, but we've got to get services to people. In order to get services to people, we have to have beds. If the outreach program is going to be effective, they can get some people here and get some people there. But in the end, we need to have more beds. And I know my friend Eva has some problems with expansion of the campus. And we should not expand the campus. If I were a person who was living under some oleander somewhere, I will be honest with you, I would not want to go down to that area unless we clean up that area. And that has to happen. So shelter and services associated with shelter. And you'll notice on my poster I said leads with services. That's got to happen. Number three, affordable housing. And you know, we talk about rapid rehousing and how important housing is. The reality is that a person's stay in shelter, it's documented by the United Way study recently, a person's stay in shelter is more successful when they have been in shelter for, stay in housing is more successful when they've been in shelter for some period of time. Right now, we're at 47 to 1, 47 to 1 for caseworkers at Cass. We have 85% of the people that we casework intensely, and their known outcomes are positive outcomes, 85%. We can reduce number of beds by having more caseworkers, having people stay shorter period. Okay, I'll wrap it up. Having length of stay be. Oh, I had a lot of distractions. The length we need to shorten the length of stay with better caseworkers, and you know, I'll just do you a favor and cut it off right there and tell you we need to clean up the campus. We need to clean up the campus area. And if you want to get homeless people out of neighborhoods, one of the first things you can do is get them more beds. Thank you.
Sorry.
Kim Osborne. Okay, hi, I'm Kim, and I work across the street from Cass and have a totally different perspective. And that's what I need the city to come down and really spend some time in the neighborhood and understand, because it is really complex and there are a lot of different perspectives. The police does a great job, and we thank them every day for helping. But what we know is with Housing First, going through Cass and Housing First is wonderful, but there's a lot of people that aren't housing ready, and the majority, 240 people are on the street. There's an overflow shelter that has 250 people sleeping in the cafeteria. That's closing down. Cass has 470 beds, but what we have is the majority are severely mentally ill that can't get diagnosed. You can't diagnose yourself if you're on the street. So it's the severely mentally ill that we really need to address. And we have lots of ideas and we have lots of suggestions, and there's a lot of non-budgetary things that can happen. And we really would encourage you to come down and meet with us regarding that. And I don't know about expanding beds at Cass, but Cass should be the best shelter in the country, right? And so I think quality over quantity for beds and services. And also, I would just pitched that since you're funding CAS, maybe you could do a neighborhood mitigation fund in that budget that provides for cleanup of trash and for cleaning the alleys and for somewhere to use the restroom and you know, that sort of thing. I know that I've done sites for treatment centers, and we always did a mitigation plan for the neighborhood. So I encourage you to do that.
Thank you. Hannah Bashaw?
Okay. Thank you. So my concerns are specifically linked with homelessness and as well as Hance Park. I live in the Roosevelt neighborhood, and this past weekend I lost my neighbor, Joshua Fitzpatrick, to a home invasion and a murder by a homeless individual. So my neighbors in my neighborhood, we have felt this increased sense of insecurity over the last year and a half, and it's really stemming from the homeless population that has found really their own shelter at Hance Park. So I'm really asking for our need as well as our wants for this budget, specifically with Phoenix Care. I know it's still in its infancy, but to really focus on funding services or programs that redirect their path to shelter or those kind of services instead of following the path into our Roosevelt neighborhood. Not only was it, I know last weekend was a rarity, but we've also experienced other homeless individuals. There was a police-involved shooting across the street in our alleys. So it's really helping us feel secure and also giving a sense of security to those who are not sheltered. So that's really our need and our want.
Thank you. Stephen Jennings?
Steve Jennings. I live at 17th Ave in Fillmore. And our neighborhood has a serious problem with homeless people. It has a serious problem with graffiti. It has not enough dumpsters. It's a great slideshow that shows all that the city's doing. And I've lived in a number of cities, and Phoenix is a very well-run city. I do want to say that. You guys do a great job. The police do a great job in our neighborhood with what they have to work with. They work all the time, and we appreciate that very much. But we need more dumpsters, and we need graffiti removal. I brought with me a screenshot of my 5 requests for graffiti removal, 2 of which are from 2017, and all say they're in process. And that's a battle for the soul of the neighborhood. We have gangs. APS cuts the sneakers off the wires, which is gang sign. And we're fighting to make our neighborhood a livable, safe place. My house has been broken into 3 times. One time when I lived there. And so we need, we're cleaning up the trash. We're doing what we can and working with the city, but we need some more dumpsters, and the graffiti removal needs to be a real thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica?
Good evening, my name is Jessica Bueno, and I am a resident of Oakland neighborhood. I'm Steve's neighbor. We're off of 17th Ave in Van Buren. And so I'm actually president of the neighborhood association, and this past year, since I've been running it, I've been talking to city departments and asking them, we need help with the trash. Can you come pick it up more regularly? We're close to the campus. We're supporting hundreds of people daily coming in and out of our alleys, rummaging through our trash. And the answer is always, it's not in our budget. It's not in our budget. So now I'm here to ask for it to be in our budget. The outreach for the Phoenix Cares, that program is not working. And so I would like for that program to be allocated to the city departments that are helping us, which is police, fire, public works, neighborhood services, parks and rec. Those are the departments that need the funding because they're actually making a difference in our neighborhoods. Thank you. I have some visuals for you, Mr. Nowakowski.
Thank you. Patrick Tersch?
Hello, everybody. How are you today? At the Andre House, they call me half and half because
I work at the Andre House, volunteer at the Andre House, and I'm homeless myself. I live at the shelter across the street. I think today, after I prayed on it today, they're going to a meeting yesterday, I thought maybe we could take a couple trees away and everybody could take a little less in their budget this year so we can keep the shelter open. Being at the shelter, I used to sit on the streets all the time, but being there and staying at CAS and staying there, they gave me accountability, goal setting, people skills, and time management. I could still be sitting on the streets. My friends in the streets aren't just homeless people, we're people too. We need to keep the shelter open so more people can get back to work, so more people can get their lives back together. What's the first thing we're going to say when we see a homeless person on the street? The first thing we should say is, oh, well, how are you today? I got a new toothbrush, or I had some bacon today. We got to make them feel at home. We have to make them dress better on the streets. But we really need to keep the shelter open because there's so many of my friends, Bob and Steve and Alan, that are in wheelchairs and they can't walk and they can't talk. I saw my friend Bill this morning, he could hardly breathe. You're throwing all my friends out on the streets. And I love you guys in this city. Phoenix, Arizona does more for the homeless than any other state in the union. I love you guys, but you're throwing us out on the streets with no place to go. I will have no place to go. I'm going to sleep on the street after that. If you look at the cost factor, we need housing too. Don't get me wrong, everybody. We need to house everybody. But if you look at the cost factor, $100 to have somebody stay at St. Vincent de Paul's versus $12,000 a year to have somebody have rent. I think some of my friends need a shelter like that so they have a place to stay in a group home. Closing St. Vincent's is wrong. The care program, I don't mean to be rude to you guys, I have never seen anybody from the care program down there or do anything for anyone. CAS needs more bathrooms. You've done a lot with the shelter, but the CAS needs new bathrooms, new showers. Because if our friends feel good about themselves and they look good, guess what's going to happen? What do you think? We're going to be all out working. And that's what my goal is here to say to everybody. I'm a success story because the people at the Andre House work very hard for me to get from the streets and sit there on the pissy curb every day to being volunteer at the Andre House. And I think we could do that with a lot more people there if we keep the shelter open. But for you to take me and move me to 57th Street in a house where I have no services, I have no one to help me, I'm stuck there all alone is wrong. Last thing I want to say is, what makes our campus so great is not the green grass. It's not the stupid buildings. It's all the wonderful people sitting there and Kimberly and everybody else that works with us every day to get our lives back together. I know a lawyer just called me up and said, I'm going to swear at you, Patrick. Guess what happened? I just got a job. I know an accountant that just got a job. I know a CPA that just got a job. Closing Vinnie's is going to be everybody on the street, and they're not going to be able to get up and be professionals anymore. I love everybody here, and I hope everybody will take a little less of their budget this year so we can keep the shelter open. Thank you very much, everybody.
Glocke?
Hi, I don't know, is it on? I can't tell. Dan Clockey, thank you, Deanna, and Councilman Nowakowski. I live and work here in downtown. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about homelessness. It's a pretty impactful thing in our community right now. There are obviously also many causes and situations with homelessness that we're not going to all be able to address tonight. One of the things I would like to ask about and perhaps talk about and request is a program that I think that a lot of people can probably agree on if it's implemented in the proper way, and that's our family reunification program. There are approximately, the stats will tell you, 20 to 25% of people who are homeless who actually have family or friends that they could stay with. The problem is they can't get there. There are programs from organizations like St. Vincent de Paul, from CAS and so forth, that help reunify families. And so this can be done right in the right way, and this can be done the wrong way. There are cities that simply put people on buses and get them out of town. That's not what I'm talking about. Family reunification program actually connects caseworkers with family and friends often in other places, because people come to Arizona very, very regularly because they think this is a good opportunity for them. They come here and they don't find an opportunity necessarily, but they can't get back home. So if we can reduce the caseload of folks who actually have family or friends that can care for them and honestly house them, not just kick them out of the city, but honestly house them in other places, we should get them there. One, it will save us a tremendous amount of money. Two, it'll save us a tremendous amount of resources from a personnel standpoint. And then it's obviously just a much lower cost in terms of police, fire, all the different services. So I would request $250,000 for a program like this, not for the city to run, but to go to programs like CAS, like St. Vincent de Paul, that do this on a regular basis and have staff that are trained to do it well. This could potentially probably get homes for 600 to 800 people. So at a cost per person, that's pretty dramatic. I'm not saying it's the solution to everything, but it's part of a solution. So I would recommend that. The other thing that I would do is maybe start the policy discussion. This isn't about funding. This is more about some of the issues that obviously folks in this neighborhood know that we have to deal with. And that's having the conversation between the city, between providers, mental health care providers, probably the ACLU and a couple other folks, to just start talking about how can we help people who really are a danger either to themselves or to others. Too often the police are in situations where they have to bring people into a situation for an evaluation and they're out on the street right after that. It's a very difficult discussion, but I would really highly recommend the beginning of that discussion, as hard as it would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Myers.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay Myers and I work for Andre House of Arizona for the last 2 years. Before that I worked at CAS as a Jesuit volunteer, so I've worked in case management with folks experiencing homelessness as well as in direct service with basic needs. So, community action response engagement services. That's what Phoenix Cares says it's going to do. I think that it's wonderful that there is outreach for folks experiencing homelessness and wanting to engage them and bring them to services. But I think we need to start asking some questions as to what are these services they're bringing to folks and individuals experiencing homelessness. Are you bringing housing? Are you bringing case management? You probably are bringing them to the Human Services campus where Craig works. Are there enough people there to even help? Are there enough resources? I would say no, because if you have 47 people to 47 people to one case manager, that case manager is way over her head. Are we also engaging folks who are the most vulnerable? And is the campus even helping them? Because if you have blankets, you are not allowed on the Human Services campus. If you are in your own feces, you are not allowed on your Human Services campus. And if you are severely mentally ill, you are going to disrupt the peace and you are not allowed on the Human Services campus. So are we caring for the most vulnerable in our community? I would say no. Is the Phoenix Cares initiative doing outreach in a way that's most beneficial for individuals experiencing homelessness? I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned, and I would like to ask some questions. I would like you guys to really get with the folks that are in the grime of the things, because I don't know if this initiative and the money spent on it is what is best for the people. Come down to Andre House. Come down and talk to folks on the street and see what they need. They need a lot of love, and they need affordable housing, and they need case management when they get into housing. And we need more shelter, because as Miranda's going to talk about in a minute, we have a shelter that's closing with 200 people that will be on the street, which I know the city doesn't fund. The county funds it. But just because the county funds it doesn't mean the city can't help with the funding. It costs $500,000 for 200 people to live there a year. And you're going to put them on the street. You can say the county's doing it, but we need to take responsibility for our neighbors, and we need to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Miranda?
Hi Hi, everyone. As Lindsay said, my name is Miranda. I also work at the Andre House of Hospitality, working with folks experiencing homelessness and poverty down in that area. I want to draw attention specifically to the fact that we do have a shelter services down there, and they have together roughly 470 beds. However, because of budget cuts, maybe county budget cuts, because St. Vincent de Paul can't commit to it any longer, the overflow shelter, which has about 200 people sleeping in it per night, will be closing down. And that's 200 folks who are not going to get beds or shelter during the night, on top of anywhere from 200 to 250 people who sleep on the street already. The reasons folks have for sleeping on the street are much like Lindsay just kind of described. Maybe they are severely mentally ill, aren't able to wait in a long line to get into the shelter, don't have the mental capacity to do that. They may be medically fragile, very vulnerable. They might not be able to walk over there on their own. They might not be able to get to the shelter. Or maybe they they have too many bags. That's another thing that, as Lindsay mentioned, if you have blankets, if you have too many bags, you're not allowed into the overflow shelter. So imagine what a person experiencing homelessness who has all their belongings with them every day is to do if they're not allowed to bring their stuff in with them to sleep. Oftentimes people wind up sleeping on the street. In addition, we do not, the overflow shelter does not allow folks with pets or service animals. We have a lot of guests, again, who are disabled or have mental illness who need a service animal with them, and those dogs are not allowed in the overflow shelter. What I would advocate for our friends on the street is a no-barrier shelter. I think there are long-term solutions to homelessness and short-term solutions to homelessness. I think a long-term solution is getting more case management to get people housed. In the meantime, we are looking at, within the next few months, 200 more of our citizens, of our friends, sleeping on the street. And I think we need to take action immediately and get shelter for these folks. Again, as many people have mentioned, Phoenix Cares, it's a wonderful outreach team. I know there's only one team. It's not enough right now. Again, there are short-term needs that people have that aren't being met in any capacity. There are folks on the street that sit in the same spot every day because they do not have the ability to get up. Since I've come to work for Andre House, me and the staff have seen 4 people pass away on the street. Elderly people, vulnerable people, dying in their own feces, dying on the street, going hours without getting noticed. And it's because there's just not enough help down there. We need better services, we need money for more case managers, and we need a shelter to remain open. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne Weber?
Hello everybody, my name is Wayne Weber. I'm homeless. I'm here to talk about the overflow. I'm here, it's going to close. I stay there because I'm disabled. I got no place else to go for right now. And I'm waiting for my Social Security to kick in. Now, closing it and putting me on the street is not the solution to all this. Okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you. Ryan Boyd?
Good evening. My name is Ryan Boyd, for the record. I live here at 4th Street and McKinley, and I'm involved with different groups like Downtown Voices Coalition. Oh, a little bit closer. Sorry about that. First off, definitely have to voice my support for the homeless situation here, and increasing funding in a thoughtful manner. This is a regional problem and it needs a regional solution. And it's something that I know we have been talking about in different venues, in different areas, but I think we do need to stress that whatever has to be done here should be something that does stress the resources and commitment of the entire region, Phoenix included, but also its sister cities throughout this entire area, because we should have a situation in which all of our communities are caring for one another. That's the first part, and then beyond that, after that critical need is met, I do want to stress the need for additional resources, primarily around the ability of making this city walkable and accessible to those without cars. I come from District 1 originally, 4 years ago, and that's up in Deer Valley. We had so much trouble when my family's one car broke down. walking in that place is terrifying. It is nearly, you nearly die, and I mean, you see headlines where people do die every day now, practically, not every day, sorry. But there's headlines of this in the Republic as we speak. And so to help with that, I think that there should be more focus on things such as cheap things as the bike lanes that you guys are adding in, but are still delayed in transportation 2050. And I think that there is a need for the tree investment that you do see here. As the tree investment, you see a $5.82 per $1 invested in the U.S. Forest Service's study back in 2016. And what you've seen with different groups pushing the tree and shade master plan, because that allows you to at least potentially walk through. When it's 110, it is bad enough to walk around a short distance. If you have to walk miles for a job or school, it's even worse. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jack Schimmer?
Hi there. Hi, my name is Jack Schwimmer. I'm a member of the Commission for the Office of Arts and Culture, and I'm here to advocate, first of all, to echo what Donna was advocating for regarding the increase in public art maintenance funding, and also to advocate for an increase, a further increase in grant funding. I grew up in Phoenix, and I found my community through arts organizations that receive grants from the city of Phoenix. And when I moved back here, I've gotten involved with the Commission and the Office of Arts and Culture. And I'm so grateful for what the city funds, but we're still, even though we're at pre-recession levels now, we're still well behind what other cities our size do. Sort of the standard for arts funding is $1 per capita. We're at about 42 cents. And if you take where we were in 1986 and adjust it for inflation, we would be at $1. So we're still way behind other similar sized cities, how we invest in our arts and culture organizations. And what we found through the Arts and Economic Prosperity Report is that every dollar that the city invests in arts and culture grant funding, the return on that is $26 back into the city to use for other opportunities. So I would just advocate for a greater increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Eva Olivas? We'll wait for you.
Thank you. Good evening, Councilman Nowakowski. Thank you so much. I have some really quick comments. I work with primarily the neighborhoods and the residents in the downtown area, although we do reach out to many areas all over the city. I can tell you that the downtown communities are probably the only community who's not chased a homeless campus out of their backyard. We are the only ones who continue to say we have a responsibility to take care of this population. We're the only ones who say that, tell us what we can do to help, but we have been really clear that just the sheer number of the population in the downtown area has changed our neighborhoods. No longer can we see more neighbors in our neighborhoods than we see strangers. So there has to be a real change in how the structure of the downtown campus is. There needs to be some thought in really keeping to the requests that you made to the community 10 years ago when it opened, which is, will you house 400 people? And today, that site, receives many more than 400 people on a daily basis. I have to say that I do not support any funding going for case managers or for any kind of human services support for the campus that is not already in the budget from last year, any additional items. And this is why, not that I don't think that they're necessary, but I feel that they should not come out of the general fund. I feel that this is a top priority throughout the country, throughout the state, and that there are foundations who are willing to help fund those positions and that type of work. So I feel that the human services need there are alternatives for that funding other than the general plan. I do strongly support anything related to Phoenix Cares, which was launched with a great idea, poorly executed, not by the fault of the city and not by the fault of any department. It was an unfunded program. And if you do not give the police department the funds they need to make it successful, they're going to fail. If you do not give neighborhood services the staff they need, the equipment they need, they're going to fail. And this is what we're feeling in the neighborhoods, is failure of the Phoenix Cares, which, to be quite honest, is a good program. But it cannot succeed if it's an unfunded program. So we're hoping that you will give the police department what they need to make it work, give neighborhood services what they need. Parks and Recreation has been incredible. The park rangers have been outstanding. Don't give them 2, give them 10. You know, Public Works, an unsung hero department. We need them because they're the ones that we call. So I really, really encourage you to support that. Let me make sure I got everything in here. Yeah, I think I got everything in here. All I can tell you is that we thank you very much for hearing us, and that the priority for me is working with the residents and helping it be clean and safe for them to walk around along with everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Drew Maxwell?
Hello, I'm Drew Maxwell. I'm the operations manager here at Arizona School for the Arts, and we're very pleased to be hosting you tonight. We just have 3 things that we wanted to add to the discussion. One is something you've heard a lot about. This school experiences a lot of the effects of homelessness because we're in the central core. But we do feel fairly well supported by the city, and especially the police department, in the ways that it's been helped to be mitigated. But we also fear the closing of shelters, and we are very concerned about the city finding ways to help in the homeless struggle. We also are very impressed with our park rangers, and we'd like to see more park rangers if that's a possibility. And we'd like to see them actually assigned to specific areas so that they begin to have more ownership of their particular parks, especially the flatland park rangers, because we're right next to Hance Park. And we've seen when the park rangers are actively engaged at Hance Park, we see a real drop in crime in the area. And finally, we also want to talk clearly about hiring more police officers in our city. So for us, in this community here at the school, our police officers are really a huge part of our school. We see them all the time. We don't have an SRO on campus. We don't need one. I mean, I recently talked to our students about school safety. They feel very confident about their school safety here. And we were very open about having them tell us about things that they wanted to improve. And they had some ideas, but one of the things they were very solid about was our police officers serve us very well. And they want to see police officers in this neighborhood even more often if they can. That only happens when we hire more police. So we're pleased generally, but we also have some concerns, and we want to see those 3 things addressed: park rangers, homelessness issues, and more police officers. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you for letting us use your facility.
We're always pleased to have you come here, and we're very pleased to be a part of the city, for sure.
Thank you. Mark Davis?
Thanks. Yeah, that's a little easier. Hi, I'm Mark Davis, council member. Thank you for your service to the city. Department heads and city employees, thanks very much for everything you guys do. It feels well ran. I do not come today representing an organization. I'm just a regular citizen. My organization is my family. I have 4 little kids at home, and I live a few blocks away from Hannah, who left a little bit ago. And I wouldn't have come here tonight, frankly, if I didn't wake up Saturday morning to have a murder happen a block away. And this is something that is not just came out of nowhere. This is something that's been ratcheting up regularly. I volunteer regularly with our neighborhood block watch. And it's something that's so hard. And I have to apologize to neighbors that we're not doing enough, to stop this. My challenge is this, and you know, there's some challenges out there that are really hard to achieve. You know, decreasing the temperature 10 degrees in August, really hard, okay? Homelessness, we can get our arms around, okay? Take that slice of the pie and grow it. Grow it substantially. I challenge you to do that. That's a need that we have in our community and our neighborhood. My family took a big bet on moving to downtown Phoenix 8 years ago. It's a beautiful community with wonderful people. But we need that allocation of resources, time, and energy from our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Abraham James?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all that the City of Phoenix has done for me. My name is Abraham James. I am the chair of the Library Advisory Board. I'm also the chair of the Encanto Village Planning Committee. I'm also the chair of the Greater Green Gables Neighborhood Association. I am a supporter of the City of Phoenix. I am very much a supporter of the Phoenix Public Library. I would hope that you would provide more hours and less days of closures for our libraries. I'm very much a supporter of streets and transportation. I'm a supporter of sustainable neighborhoods. I would request that you provide more funds for youth centers and senior centers within the City of Phoenix. And I would also request that you provide more funds toward providing affordable housing within the City of Phoenix, as well as doing something to deal with the issues of homelessness within our city. We are the 5th largest city within the nation, and I really believe that the issues with homelessness is an issue that can be solved. I think that if there was a political will to do it, it would have been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Felix Moran?
Cool. So I feel like I might be the last one. Mine is pretty much pertaining to youth programs. I know we had the Youth Build City of Phoenix program here, and something happened that we lost funding for it. I was out doing outreach for that program, so I had so many friends that were interested and passionate about that program. Seeing that they lost funding for it, they were disappointed. I actually graduated that program, so I'm a big alumni and a big advocate for it, and so many other national programs like Public Allies. I advocate, and I asked if you guys could try to give an opportunity to those programs, see if you could work in your budget to be able to give some funding, as well as in Laveen. Laveen is a growing little town, and at the same time it needs a youth rec center. I know the Phoenix Suns donated to be able to build the park again. I think that was amazing, but I feel it's a big responsibility for the city of Phoenix to be able to have a recreational center there. I know a lot of youth go to Cesar Chavez Library, which is amazing, but you can only do so much in the library before getting kicked out. And I know, yeah, and I know it's coming time where it will get so hot again, and a lot of people don't want to be outside, but we still want to be physically fit. So just having a good structure to be able to have them, so we can be able to provide more services and programs. Thank you.
Corey Kincaid?
So Corey Kincaid, I'm a downtown resident here. I've been down here since 2009. So I guess just a couple brief points, and thank you, Councilman Nowakowski and city staff for being here as well. One point just to touch on the homelessness related issue. So I guess one thing I would say is, so I'm not homeless, right? My family's homeless. I don't work or volunteer in a homeless shelter. The point is, I think it's very easy sometimes for people to dismiss the requests or the needs around homelessness if the people always asking for them are those who are directly connected. I'm here to say, as a citizen who's not connected, it's very, very important, and I think it's extremely important that funding and resources be allocated in the city in that direction. I always see it as there's three key roles when it comes to dealing with the homelessness situation. One is the experts, the people who actually know what will work, how much it costs, and how to do it. I think there's no shortage of the folks that have that expertise, and we see that tonight. I think the second factor is the citizenry has to say it's important and it needs to be funded, and I think that's the role that I'm trying to play. And I think the third piece is then the city government has to actually direct the funds and the resources to do that, so I would add my voice to that call. The second point that I would just touch on is almost every service that's been discussed here or asked for, whether it's arts or whether it's library or whether it's police or whether it's fire, it is generally an accepted economic fact that it is cheaper to provide services per capita, but more densely those population is located. So in that context, things that help support a dense, walkable, vibrant, sustainable city in the urban core, I think should always receive a funding priority over alternatives. So that's my two thoughts. Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for coming out. We heard you loud and clear. We heard that there needs to be more funding for our fire, and especially the fire stations and some of the fleet and staff. We heard about the libraries, that we increased some of the hours, but we need to get back to 7 days out of the week that we open up all of our libraries for our families to use. We heard about the public arts, and that we need to really help out a little bit more with the maintenance aspect of the arts. And then we also heard about needing more police officers out there. And we also heard the need of making sure that the streets department and neighborhood services has enough monies to actually do their work and help out in our communities, and that they're doing a great job, but some of the resources aren't there to help them out. And then we heard about more programs for our youth, that we need to really focus on creating some programs, not just in the inner city, but also on the outskirts, like in the Levine area with the youth and rec center and all that. And then we also heard about the affordability, that we need to make sure that our downtown area, that we have more affordable housing and workforce housing in the downtown area. With all this new development going on, we need to make sure that people that live here can actually afford to live in downtown Phoenix. And then the big thing that I heard, and I think it's the biggest need that we as a city need to address, is the homeless. And let me tell you that one of the things that I heard last year, and we got together with many neighborhoods, especially in this area, and we met with many people from this area right here, is that the city needs to do stuff. We brought in all the different departments to these meetings, and then one of the things that we found out is that the city of Phoenix has a lot of resources, but that we needed to create some kind of a system, some way to bring in all those different resources that we have under one umbrella so that people can get those services. And that's how we came out with the Phoenix Cares program. It was really from you all that was giving these recommendations and reaching out to some of the nonprofit organizations out there to help out. And the big issue is the funding. I mean, the city of Phoenix provides a little bit over $4 million in services to homeless, from CAS to the UMOM and to all the different services that we provide out there. So that's a good share of our general funds that go out there to try to help out the homeless individuals that are out there. We also have vouchers, over about 275 plus vouchers that we give out to homeless individuals that need that extra helping hand. So I believe that the city of Phoenix is doing their fair share. That's my personal opinion. But what we need to do is that we need to become stronger advocates to make sure that our neighboring cities, that we start working as a region. Because I talked about that Team Phoenix approach, and I believe that's what we try to do with the Phoenix Cares. And it's not the best program. It's something that was just came together because that was a grassroots need, and that's what we try to provide. We can always improve on it. But one of the things that we need to do too is, how do we make sure that we respect those neighborhoods that have been here for years, and now they're seeing a problem with homeless individuals living in their alleys and breaking into their homes. So now we have to figure out, how can people feel safe, and how can we make sure that we take care of our homeless individuals. Tomorrow we're going to have a town hall that it was basically the community asked if they could come together to address the issue that happened this weekend. So at 7 o'clock at City Hall, at our downstairs at the Assembly Hall, I think it's A, right? A, B, and C. That we're gonna just talk, and I believe that once we have a conversation, and we'll find some common ground, and once we find that common ground, then we can start working from that common ground. I believe that the city of Phoenix, we're doing our fair share, but we can do a lot more. And I think we can work with other organizations that are out there and come up with a solution. We have over 1,000 churches out there. And if we can get all the churches to come together to really help out and just take one homeless individual as to help us with that. And then we have these other programs that Don was talking about where we're reconnecting families. I mean, that's something I haven't heard of, and I think it's something that can work. But I believe that we have the will, and we have a city that's willing to work together. We have all of our departments that are here trying to come up with the solutions. We have the nonprofits, and we even have one of my ex-colleagues here, you know, Craig Tripkin, that's been on our behinds from day one. I mean, he's been advocating and advocating and advocating, and you know, and I just feel bad because we keep on trying to give more money to you, Craig, and you know, it's just the well's dry, you know, and we have all these other services that we have to provide. So we have to think smarter. We have to come together as a community, and I think tomorrow's meeting is the first step in the right direction to have that conversation. So I invite all you to come out to City Hall. It's on the first floor, and we can start having that conversation. I just really want to thank you for addressing the needs, because I think that's what we really addressed today. And thank you for coming out and making our city great. God bless y'all. Thanks.